The Bauhaus school was actually dealing with real-life problems and was working out of the school with prototyping in the city. You know, so like the building you see here is actually a prototype for a new kind of school building.
Bauhaus is more a methodology for approaching design, and it was extremely related to doing. So when it was originally incepted.
Bauhaus for me is certainly much more than just the iconic objects like the chairs and the nice buildings. I much more think about the ideology behind it.
So Bauhaus was influenced by many things from other countries. There is no Bauhaus style really, because people often say yes, it's a Bauhaus style. That's not true. There is a style after the First World War which can be called modernism.
So there's a lot of things we can approach in design, and not all of it has to do with the Bauhaus. Maybe you can find some links, but to see it clear 100 years later, it's a different world.
Bauhaus at that time was very liberal. I think that has not changed. We should still be very open and liberal to explore ideas, but the direction is different. In 2007, we had an organization here that proposed if Bauhaus were existing today, it would be green. Green meaning it would have an ecological focus.
I would say that a lot of our principles relate to Bauhaus principles. I think this is because Bauhaus principles, they work as a really good base for design. They really include all the basic when it comes to geometry, when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to functionality. It really builds the foundation of a good design work in the end. So it's a really good point to start on. Of course he was important because he had another view to design, which is more a social view to design, or what we talked before, it's make solutions for problems.
Yeah.
and not only to make beautiful things.
If we look at the Bauhaus here in Tel Aviv, it is in one eye we are crying because of the circumstances that it came to Palestine. It's not because of something happy, because the Jews had to run away from the Germans. So it's a tragedy actually. And on the other side, it is also a positive result or a positive development of what people can do. They came here without nearly anything, and they built a new city in a new spirit, in a democratic idea, also socialist ideology. The style, actually, it is not a historical style, it is a style without roots. For this reason we call it also international style. You can find it all over the world. I think especially speaking now about the Bauhaus here in Tel Aviv, I think it is it reflects very much the society of Tel Aviv. It suits very much to the character of the local population, which is very open, very informal, also dynamic and functional. I think practical. It lives. It is not something, it's not a museum.
I'm a cultural geographer, so I wrote a book on Tel Aviv. So there is a chapter of the White City, but what I did is not the history of architecture so much, but the history of a cultural history of an image. How the term White City came into being, how come it was, how it emerged. It began with color, but it was not the only color, because the colors of Tel Aviv in the 20s, when it was a town, but it's the image, it's the White City. The White City has an image of the city, how it came into being, how it was born, how it became associated in the, let's say, 2000, around 2000 with architecture. For the kind of a wedding between this image, which has nothing to do with architecture per se, and suddenly this idea of the Bauhaus and the architecture. Oh, it's the simplicity. It's the simplicity. I mean, it's very straightforward. And the beauty is in the variations on the theme. Bauhaus is the theme, and the beauty is in the individual variations that every building, every apartment does for itself. So it's an overarching theme of simplicity, but laced with variations. And the variations are the beautiful one when you see the small things. I mean, the statement is, the basic statement, I'm modern, I'm simple, and I'm functional, yeah.
Why do you preserve them? We should destroy all of them. Maybe one should be left to show the next generations how it was. But today, and this was 20 years ago, we have new materials, we have new people, new needs.
Yes. Yes.
So we don't should preserve Bauhaus buildings. And this was the Bauhaus architect. In Berlin, they have, I understand you have been there, in the Bauhaus style, they have mainly worker settlements, which are huge in comparison to here. I mean, and then they were wondering to see, you know what is bourgeois city? Yes. So Tel Aviv is not a worker city. In Germany, they are not so used, in Berlin, to upper class Bauhaus buildings.
When Apple was changing end of the 90s, when Steve Jobs was coming back to Apple, and he was impressed by this design of Braun. He had a private Braun collection, and he was searching for a new designer and found it was Johnny Ive in its own company. So because Johnny Ive was a designer before. And these two men studied Brown, looked to this Brown design to learn from it, not to copy. You cannot copy a radio from the 50s to a computer in the 2000s. These are two different things. They learned a lot of Brown, but made it in a new way. They really not copied, but they developed. They made the next step. But Apple was developing this Brown design to the contemporary items.
I'm very happy that Steve Jobs really went back to taking for his calculator, taking Dieter Rams' design. That was really very much of an acknowledgement, and it was so clear. This is also when you have for example, in the kitchen, you have a kitchen machine and you just need 3 speeds. Why do you have 12 options? Yeah, I think Steve Jobs was definitely, and Jonathan Ive, they know what is good design. And they liked the clarity, and they liked they weren't going for kind of fluff and experimentation for experimentation's sake. So Jonathan Ive and Steve Jobs, they were right to the point to make something that we have a German saying that has hand and foot, so something substantial. The first Macs, and I had the first, because it's just such a joy to have something that is beautiful, that works, and that you can learn to understand for new technologies especially, that kind of fits into your lifestyle, fits into what you want to do. So I think really that Apple, that it is very difficult in this day and age to be as strict, stringent as Steve Jobs was. He was really to the point, and he would not, and unless the quality was reached that he saw working for the people, with the people, he would not let anything go out.
But I think with new technology today, if you look back, we have also new possibilities to approach these problems. So, yeah, I mean, again, like social housing for people with needs, or building according to new climate conditions and so on. Yeah, I think it's actually up to you, yeah, next generation. It's exactly your question. I think it's not possible to do it without technology. So you have to face it, and you have to deal with it. And I mean, technology at the time of the Bauhaus compared was really slow, but the people also found it very fast, and trains and airplanes later, and heating systems. Oh my God, certain parts of technology should also have an influence at the overall design. So it was composed into the building, same as lamps, colors, chairs, tables, and so on. And I think this part is actually not so different from what we have today. So our technologies of a smartphone or some screens are also in a way composed in our buildings, in our everyday life, and it's really up to us, or up to you, new generation, how do we want to do it, and how do we want to have it? So we should make a strong impact on how to combine, how to compose that into our society.
I don't want to sound too opposed to technology, but technology changed a lot over the 100 years since Bauhaus existed, and when they embraced technology, it was in a way more simple. And today technology has become too powerful actually, and it can lead to distraction, so that there's just made progress for the sake of progress and for technology, but not for the sake of good. And this de-emotionalizes as well the humans from each other, but also from their surroundings. And it would be important, or is important for designers also, to put an emphasis more on emotion, also in technological products, to stay human somehow.
Designers' job is to make to reduce problems, to help the people to live a better life or an easier life or whatever. So it's it's around problems, not to go around form, about beauty or other things. So it's this how to solve such problems, and I think we will have a lot of problems with the digital world upcoming. We see all the robotic which is upcoming, the artificial intelligence which is upcoming, and for many things we will use solutions, and I think this is a job for designers.
I know that the students at UST are quite interested in many fields. I would bring in is the inquisitiveness. It's the out of the blue having ideas that are sometimes maybe nonsense ideas, just to spur creativity. When I think about the photography that was done at Bauhaus, for example, and with the very down-to-earth architecture that was very rigid and very functional, but when you see the theater that was done there, when you see the photography that was done there, the graphic design, the exploration is the most important. One of the most important parts is to explore as much as possible what you can do that is of service to people or of service to the society.